Welcome, everyone, to the NYC Workforce Drop. I'm Greg Morris, CEO of the New York City Employment and Training Coalition. Thrilled to be here today at the Manhattan Neighborhood Network studio on West 38th Street. I get the opportunity to work with really tremendous folks in the workforce development space. And I'm so proud and grateful and honored to be part of their journey. And I have to give shout-outs. I give shout-outs as often as I can. But I have to give shout-outs to the folks who made it possible for me to find my footing in this particular space. And one of those individuals is Jen Mitchell. And Jen Mitchell is on the pod today. Jen Mitchell is the president and CEO of the Doe Fund. And if we rewind the clock, true story, when I came on board to this job a little over 3 years ago, it was Jen Mitchell in her space as part of the executive committee of NYC ETC who really took a hand in helping to make sure that I had my footing. And as we dig into this podcast today, and as Jen tells the story of her start from the Peace Corps and her desire to focus on issues related to the environment, to her initial opportunity at the Doe Fund, to a fabulous career at the Hope Program, shout out to the Hope Program, to then coming back to the Doe Fund as its president and CEO. I think you're going to hear her talk a little bit about, yes, the people she serves and her commitment to service. And I think you're going to hear about how it is that she thinks that our city can and should and is doing innovative and impactful and interesting things to ensure that folks have a roof over their head while they secure job opportunities, especially for folks who have barriers, vulnerabilities. You're going to hear about how much that matters to her, how she sees that going forward, and it's going to touch everything from homelessness and reentry to addiction recovery and supportive housing. And we're going to weave in the green economy pathway because she's an expert in that space as well. But I think all the way through, you're going to hear the story of someone who is a true connector, who is a true believer, who's someone who thinks and understands how it is without necessarily being an expert on every imaginable thing, but how it is that the human services sector, the social services space works to take care of New Yorkers, to make sure that New Yorkers are ready, willing, and able to find their future in New York City. Welcome, Jen, to the NYC Workforce Drop. It's so great to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here, Greg.
Jen Mitchell's in the building. Here's the thing about Jen Mitchell. It's a true story. I go to the same cafe before every podcast. I have the Americano. I have the chocolate croissant, right?
I had it too.
And I pregame. I'm pregaming, right?
By yourself.
By myself. Pregaming. Laptop open, notes, feverish. Who walks in today?
I did.
Jen Mitchell. Hey, how are you? Oh, hi. And then you go, oh, yeah, I was here 2 hours. Wait, 2 hours earlier than that?
Yeah.
You're like hanging out there. And if I remember correctly, you spent some of that time taking calls in your car. Is that right?
Yes, Greg. You're giving away all my secrets.
That's not the first time I've seen you do that, by the way. The life of an executive. How often is it you're taking calls and doing business in your car?
I don't know. I'm like a 24/7 person. I am like in my office. I'm in my car. I'm at home. I'm at a coffee shop. But it's Doe Fund all day, every day.
It's 24/7 business.
Yeah.
And I recognize that running things, it feels 24. It is 24/7. How many sites, by the way, are you responsible? Is the Doe Fund operating responsible for at this point?
We have 16 sites 16. As of this moment. Over the summer, we will be opening a new transitional housing shelter, and then we'll be breaking ground on another, and we have about 4 more in the pipeline of affordable and supportive
The one
housing.
Coming up, where's it going to be located?
It is the one coming up is in Bed-Stuy. It is right next door to our original shelter that we opened in the early 90s. So it's it's kind of full circle moment, and it's beautiful 200-bed facility for homeless men that we will run in partnership with Department of Homeless Services and offer our signature Ready, Willing, and Able program to everyone who enters.
I think the Doe Fund, that Ready, Willing, and Able comes up. I think that genuinely is when people think about the Doe Fund. That's the language, I think. What does that mean? When you say and you talk to folks about Ready, Willing, and Able, what does that mean?
I mean, the Ready, Willing, and Able program is how I first got involved in the Doe Fund many, many moons ago, because it is a workforce development. It's a work training program. And so, we have 3 transitional housing facilities right now, and the 4th one that we just talked about that's about to open, and they are all single men in the homeless service system. And what we do is we offer to everyone the opportunity to participate in our Ready, Willing, and Able program. And it is a 9 to 18-month comprehensive, holistic program that in one way meets people exactly where they're at, and then the other way says, okay, this is the framework for how you're going to end up leaving the shelter system with a job and a place to call home. And it's a powerful program. I personally believe in the transformative power of work, and that work is dignity. Work, gives people a sense of pride, and so giving that opportunity to people who so often have not had opportunities like that is so meaningful.
Can you describe for me what I don't want to say typical is the right word, but when you talk about the individuals that you serve, how do you describe them?
Human beings with infinite potential who often haven't been given the opportunities that I have been afforded and that many others have been afforded. All of them are homeless because they're being deemed homeless by New York City's Department of Homeless Service System, and they often come to us with histories of incarceration or histories of addiction or both. But if someone joins the Ready, Willing, and Able program, they are kind of hungry for the opportunity to transform their life and be kind of contributing members to their family, to the city, to their neighborhood, to their community.
Before we started this podcast, we were chatting about lots of things.
We never chat.
We chat. We chat. We were talking about how it is that my role as CEO of NYC ETC and your taking over the Doe Fund was around about the same time. Is that right?
I have been back at the Doe Fund.
And this is the key. This is back at the Doe Fund.
Boomerang. I'm a boomerang. Yeah, I've been back at the Doe Fund now in the role of president and CEO for a little over 3 years, which is similar to you.
Yeah. And the first event that I was invited to in this role was a graduation ceremony.
Yeah. And graduation, that's the best.
And it was powerful, and it was warm and loving, and Reverend Alfonso Wyatt was speaking to the crowd.
He has spoken at almost every one of our either graduations or Mama Doe vigils for 30-plus years.
Alfonso he's beyond description, I think, in some ways, and I was thrilled to be present with him and with you. And I just want to say, I knew you first from your leadership of the HOPE program. We'll talk about that. But I just want to say, when you got this job and you said you had this job, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone who looked more excited, happy, grateful. I don't know blessed, perhaps. I'm not sure what the right word would be. And I don't think this is about, I think you were making amazing things happen at the HOPE program. We'll talk about that. But I just remember seeing you, and you looked so like, I don't know whether because you were back home.
It was like coming home. I feel grateful every single day to be leading the Doe Fund and to be working with everybody at the Doe Fund and to be serving everyone we serve at the Doe Fund. It is such a privilege.
What was the first job you had at the Doe Fund?
My first job. so my first job started in January of 2000. I made up the title, literally. Like,
Great.
I basically was coming out of grad school, had a couple job offers at places I had interned that weren't super exciting to me. And so I had talked to a guy named Andre who was part of the Ready, Willing, and Able program every day when I waited for the bus to go to grad school. And so he told me all about the program and how it had helped him and given him the opportunity to change his life. And so I was like, I'm going to call and do an informational interview. And I called, and they were like, okay, we don't have any job openings that would be appropriate for you right now, but sure, come in. And I went up to our 200-bed transitional housing residence in probably December of 1999, and I fell in love. And I literally called my husband and said, I don't care what job they offer me. I don't care what the salary is. Like, I love this place. I met someone during that tour named Craig Trotta who had just graduated from the program, and today, 26 years later, he runs our entire community improvement project operation. And so, yeah, it's always kind of been in my blood, for lack of a better word.
Where did that come from? No, why do you think that is? Where does that come from?
Where does that come from? I was raised kind of by activist parents who I think we kind of always were kind of told. There was a sign that hung in my house, I think, that said, activism is the rent you pay to live on this planet. And so I've always kind of had it. My dad was a legal aid attorney. My mom was a nursery school teacher at a co-op nursery school. My sister also works in the nonprofit space. It's just like, why are you going to be here if you're not going to kind of give back and make an impact and do your best and use your skills in ways that will benefit others?
It's interesting that you say that. I think you and I, we chat.
Never.
And we also have friends in common. Mind blowing.
Shout out to Dan Bova.
Shout out to Dan Bova, podcaster, by the way.
Yes, that's true.
Shout out to
He's
Dan
never
Bova,
had me on his podcast.
Yeah, what's up with that, Dan? Let's get on that, Dan. Shout out to Dan Bova, our friend in common. Who would have? What a small world, by the way.
Yeah. It was really weird. I remember when he told me he was your friend when you were interviewing for.
I was interviewing for this,
NYC
this job.
ED role. Yeah.
And I was like, wait, how do you know what has happened here?
Oh, our kids played baseball together.
Look at that. We're going to talk. Well, I want to talk kids too. I want to say this though, specific to the service is the rent you pay for living. That sort of communication. Because I remember my first experience where something like that came to light for me was when I was going to New York University, where I met the Dan Bova, roommates, buddies. At that time, and I wandered into what was called the C team at the time, community service sort of space. In other words, I just went. I've said this. I've told this story before, but this idea that I was an NYU student looking for something to do, and I saw an advertisement for something that said like free T-shirts and pizza or something like that. And so I legitimately, I was like, oh great, I'm a dumb college student just hanging out, and it's for this community service thing called the C team at the time, and they had invited us to this space where there were all these organizations. I had no idea. I grew up in upstate New York. I don't know University Settlement. I don't know Henry Street Settlement. I don't know any of these things. But they were all there. And I just remember the person from University Settlement, Gerard Dunphy is his name. He said something like, I don't care where you choose to do. These are all amazing organizations. Yeah. I don't care where you choose to do it. He said, that's what you're built to do.
Yeah.
And I just remember hearing that and being like, I don't know if anybody else heard it like I did in that moment, but it like drew me to, what do you mean? I want to be there for that.
Yeah, no, I think that has always been. I mean, in high school, I was super involved in Key Club, Spring Valley High School Key Club won like a national award. And
what was your national award?
It was like for like the best service in the country. And
what was the service? How was this? What did it look
Key
like?
Club.
I remember Key Club.
We took senior citizens shopping. We bowled with folks who had physical disabilities. We did March of Dimes walks. We raised money.
This is inherent in you.
It is. I mean, and then after college, I went to the Peace Corps, and so that was obviously a really transformative experience too. Yeah, no, I feel like why be here if you're not doing good stuff?
What was the Peace Corps like?
So I was an environmental education volunteer in Bluefields, Nicaragua, and it was. The Peace Corps slogan is the toughest job you'll ever love.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky because I loved it. I've also had other jobs. Well, only two others, so I have a very boring career path. But I've loved every step of my career. But it was interesting. I mean, you go in there, you step into somebody else's world, somebody else's culture, and you learn that what you think the solution might be from your seat, coming from the United States, coming from a suburb of New York City, is not necessarily the right solution for someone in Bluefields, Nicaragua. And so that part about that's so important in every step of my career to date has been like listening to those who are impacted and knowing that more often than not, the solutions, are within them. Like I might not have the solution. I might have the execution skills. I might have, I have to be a really good listener, but like it's not on me alone to come up with a solution.
Yeah, that idea that, and as who we are, the lessons learned of the work, human services, social services, et cetera, is something about how it is that no matter what you learned in school or no matter what they taught you in whatever program you were part of, the reality is when you're on the ground and you're present, you can never start from the perspective of I know.
Totally. And I think that, what you just said about being on the ground and being present, like I think people being proximate with each other is so incredibly important. It's so incredibly important. So it was important in the Peace Corps. It was important in my first years at the Doe Fund, and it's important now. But like in those first pivotal years, I mean, 70% of the Doe Fund's program team are graduates of the Ready, Willing, and Able program. And even those who aren't, more often than not, have lived experience and are credible messengers. And so I just had the privilege of very early in my career being mentored and taught and honestly just people sharing their lives and their experience with me that has always like landed in really powerful ways.
I appreciate you sharing that. And tell me, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but you got two boys.
I have two boys.
Have you been able to impart upon them this service focus?
I think that they are good, kind citizens of the world. I think that they are each going to pursue they're both, well, actually, I was going to say they're both college age, but one of them just graduated
Congratulations,
college.
by the way. Shout out to you and your family.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Forget the graduate. It's all about you.
Yeah, exactly. But so I think that like they've been raised with the values of like being kind to everyone. Thinking through how they show up and how they shine their light, but also how they make space for others to shine their light. But one of them is, very, very sports management focused. The other one is pursuing studies in political science and international relations. So, everyone will go their own way.
I love this, by the way. First off, the older one, the grad, congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Just explain that job, that this person, what the expectation is leaving school. This is the coolest. Just explain what this is.
Sorry, Charlie. So Charlie is living and working this summer in Raleigh, North Carolina, pursuing his passion for baseball operations, analytics, and like player development. And so he's working for Team USA Baseball, and he is learning all these. He's been in training for the past week plus, learning all these like technical tools for, scouting and evaluating and analyzing player potential. And then he'll be traveling around the country this summer with a whole team of people looking at up-and-coming baseball players.
See, that's just that just seems
That's
like a very cool,
many sports-oriented people's dream gigs.
That is a dream.
We'll see
gig.
where it leads.
That is a dream. And you said the younger one, he's thinking about his current and future plans. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
And
figuring it out.
Figuring it out in real time. But I think that the story you told on that was something about how his interpretation of what college is and what it could be.
Yeah, he just is. He's my little one, Max. Super, super thoughtful. Mm-hmm. And as he went through his freshman year, just figuring out like what he wants out of college, what the experience is going to look like, and the role he plays in kind of owning that experience and navigating the challenges that come his way. So I'm really proud of both of them.
Yeah, and of course, and I just think it's a really interesting thing because again, congratulations to the success and your families, all good things happening. Just something interesting about the younger one, and the idea of, how do you figure out where you fit is an interesting piece that we have to dig into.
What's the experience you want to have?
What's the experience you want to have? Right.
And frankly, both of them, and their kind of pathways, and how they explore pathways, and how they think about them, and how they hustle, is all the stuff that in my career as workforce development person and now a housing person too, and a passion for folks who maybe haven't had the same opportunities that my boys are offering, is how do you, when you are presented with an opportunity, how do you seize it? How do you take advantage of it? How do you make the most of it? And
how do you know that? I mean, sometimes we get into this idea of in this podcast with folks, how do you know that you've earned an opportunity? How do you know that you deserve an opportunity? How are you surrounded by people who encourage you to take advantage of opportunity?
Totally. The sense of community, the sense of support, all that I think important in professional lives and personal lives. And I mean, for me, kind of as we started talking about this, with, the just doing well and doing good and having a positive impact on the world, I think that bleeds into kind of how I try to show up, whether it's in my professional life or in my personal life. It's kind of one and the same.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens when you're a CEO, right? Is that the blending of the personal and professional. I think this is true for a lot of us in this space.
I think so.
It becomes part of who you are and who the people in your lives are part of. And when it's done right or well, how you're exposing your family to how it is that you do things is also very intense and challenging, but also hopefully something that shares
rewarding.
The genes.
Yeah. Everyone in my life, if they love me, they kind of got to love the Doe Fund, because it's something I talk about and is very important to me.
That's exactly right. So tell me how it is. So you're at the Doe Fund.
Yeah.
Right? But you have this environmental sort of focus, right? Is that what gets you to the Hope? Tell me about Hope.
No. So, okay. I was an environmental policy and sociology major in undergrad. And then I did environmental education in the Peace Corps. And coming back from the Peace Corps, I kind of pivoted because I realized it's really hard to have somebody ask somebody to care about the environment when they're struggling to put food on their table, when they're struggling to provide for their family. And so when I came back, I pivoted a bit, went to grad school, and really did more. I got a master's in public administration, but with more of a focus on human services and social welfare policy. And then fell in love during an internship in grad school with workforce development. Went to the Doe Fund and fell more in love with workforce development and the idea that just giving someone an opportunity to work and giving them a million chances and teachable moments. And that's what the Doe Fund's Ready, Willing, and Able program is all about. People, we do classes, computer essentials, career essentials, conflict resolution, relapse prevention, hygiene. I mean, people are coming in and living in a shelter. But then we also give them money that they're earning while they are learning work skills, while they're learning how to show up on time and get along with a difficult colleague or take directions that maybe like they don't feel like doing right now. So as they're doing all of that and earning money, it just, to me, I was like, wow, workforce development. It's powerful. It's a powerful transformer. And then so fast forward, I spent 12 years at the Doe Fund. We developed a program in Philadelphia during that time. We replicated in DC during that time. And then I kind of felt like, okay, I was leading the programs at the Doe Fund, but wanted to learn some other skill sets, and the Hope program had an opening, and the Hope program was very well known. This was 2011 for having some of the best one-year retention outcomes in the industry. Above, I think it was Robin Hood had said at that time it was like above average one-year retention outcomes for when someone got a job and kept a job.
High praise from Robin Hood.
Very high praise.
Average.
And so I was like, all right, I want to learn the secret sauce that's going on there. And I joined the Hope program team in 2011, spent 12 years there. The Hope program is such a thoughtfully designed workforce development program. It was designed by someone as they were getting their PhD in educational administration and wanted to figure out how folks who were struggling could break the cycles, and so it's the curriculum is thoughtfully designed. And then while I was there, we really branched out. We went from kind of a one-room schoolhouse model in Brooklyn to expanding and partnering with Sustainable South Bronx in the Bronx, and so kind of we were then and are now dual headquartered, and they have 5 or 6 different workforce development program threads, and most of them are in the green economy, which for me was really coming full circle, because now I was an environmental policy major. I did environmental education, then switched to workforce development, and then at Hope, and now we're working on it at Doe too. It's like people can get jobs where they're providing for their family, putting food on the table, and also positively impacting the environment. So that full circleness is also really powerful. And the Green Economy Network is something that I was one of the founding members of and am still actively involved in.
Shout out to Jobs First.
Shout out to Jobs First. I think I'm passionate about a lot of things, but like green jobs training, I think checks a lot of boxes right now, especially.
All right, so let's do the pitch here, the 30-second elevator pitch. If you had to explain a green job in 30 seconds, what would you say?
I would say a green job is something that pays a livable wage and is contributing to making the community, the neighborhood, the city, the state more healthy, cleaner, more sustainable.
And if you had the 30 seconds to explain what a livable wage is, what would you say?
Oh, a livable wage is where somebody can, without, right now it's really hard for people to get a livable wage, but a livable wage, I would say, and you've had so many other people on this podcast that could define it probably way more eloquently. Shout out to Jennifer Jones Austin, among other folks. But a livable wage, something where somebody can provide for themselves, for their family, contribute to their community without the need for all the subsidies and entitlements that exist now, which they all exist now for a reason. It's really hard to get to that livable wage in New York City in particular.
Shout out to JJA, by the way, because we were talking about baseball earlier. Her son.
Oh, my goodness.
Just promoted.
Binghamton bound.
Yep. He's in AA.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Shout out to JJA, her son, her family.
Yeah,
incredible. That's very exciting stuff.
And my family is big Mets fans, so they're all...
Yeah, he's in the system.
They're all very excited about Channing Austin.
Keep your eyes open.
My claim to fame is that I know his mom.
That's it. That's right? That's what it is. 30 more seconds on a couple more things. How do you explain to someone in 30 seconds what workforce development is?
I mean, workforce development is the sector that focuses on helping people who haven't always had the opportunity to develop the skills, the confidence, the support, the network that many of us take for granted to get their foot in the door and then develop a career trajectory. So we're that sector when people are worrying about economic development, when people are worrying about social services. I think workforce development is the intersection of those things and how people in need can benefit from all the activity going on.
All with the intent to secure that livable wage.
Exactly. And you could have said that way more articulately and eloquently, but here I go.
No, that was great. And I wanted to get into that for a second, too, because I think sometimes we, and I'm talking about we, NYC ETC board, folks in the sector, sometimes I think we struggle to explain what we do or how we do it. And I wonder if sometimes it's helpful just to hear how leaders in the space
off the cuff,
think about, even off the cuff. Oh, you have to talk about this, to funders, to elected officials, et cetera, et cetera. But I always am curious how we define ourselves in the space and how that resonates. And it's something I think our people who I hope for listening think about too.
Yeah, and I think, with the work I'm doing now, the Doe Fund is obviously doing workforce development, but we also, have, the transitional housing, and then we have a pretty enormous portfolio, over 1,300 units of affordable and supportive housing. And so thinking about the intersection of workforce development and the role that housing plays in it is really important. When I was at Hope, and you should have Tracy Capers on in your next season.
Tracy on. Get Tracy on.
Tracy's awesome.
Get Tracy on the board. We got to get Tracy on the podcast.
Exactly.
Shout out to you, Tracy.
Yes, shout out to Tracy. But at Hope, we were always very intentional when we did our intake interviews that someone at least have a stable place, even if it was a shelter, that we knew that they had a stable place to lay their head at night while they were going through the training program. And so at the Doe Fund, that really becomes kind of even more front and center, right? Because people are living with us and they are then, getting themselves to baseline, getting, nutritious and delicious food, being in a safe space, and then starting to think about, okay, what's next? And how do I move out of there? How do I get my foot in that career ladder? And then we have this affordable and supportive housing, which in some cases people have been lucky enough to, or fortunate enough to secure housing without that job. But that doesn't mean they don't want to, in some way, be engaged in the workforce. And so we're trying to figure out what elements of the Ready, Willing, and Able program can apply to a model where somebody already has housing, but they want to participate in a workforce training.
So the idea that, okay, I got if I have my housing solidified.
Yep.
Can we agree? Housing solidified, it's much easier for me to stay focused on developing a job opportunity or focusing on a career or working towards better wages. Fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. And, the origin story for the Doe Fund is that our founder, George McDonald, who passed away, a little over 5 years ago, he volunteered in Grand Central Station handing out sandwiches for a couple years. And what he would always hear from the folks who he befriended in Grand Central Station was thanks for the sandwich, but I'd really like a room and a job to pay for it. And so here we are nearly 40 years later, and it still is about the room and the job to pay for it, though the room looks differently and the jobs look different, frankly, as well.
I've had this lucky enough in my career to work a couple different organizations that were going through theory of change process and reflecting seriously on performance management and what is the value of our work. And I distinctly remember a gentleman named David Hunter, who's a consultant in this space, when we were at Children's Aid Society at the time, now Children's Aid, having some conversation with the professionals there about what is it that you believe you are making a difference, and how it is that you believe that. And a very challenging conversation came up once where he said something along the lines of, what's the value of a soup kitchen? Now, the theory here being, Is it absolutely essential to ensure that people are eating meals on a daily basis, multiple meals that can satisfy their wellness? Yes. And his question was, is that enough?
It's so interesting. You just completely brought me back to my grad school essay, which I had just gotten back from the Peace Corps, and I was applying to grad schools. And I wrote an essay about how one of the things that I had come away with from the Peace Corps experience, including, the importance of listening and elevating voices and solutions come from within, was how important it is to, rather than just give somebody a fish, teach them how to fish. And I haven't thought about that in so long, but that's in many ways my entire career has been about, yes, we want to meet you where you're at, and we want to fill your belly if you need your belly filled. We want to, give you the supports and the love and all of that you need. But we also want to make sure that if we're not here, that you also have the skill set to do that on your own.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we want that food to be culturally appropriate, and we want you to be ultimately, if you want to be someone who's in the kitchen producing that food and being an entrepreneur, yes, we want that and that. Yeah. And then it's this constant question of what more is there? What more are we seeking to accomplish?
Yeah. I also remember, so I was at the Doe Fund when we opened what is our largest transitional housing residence in kind of border of Williamsburg and Bushwick, and it was 2003, and we had flat screen TVs in this, and it looked great for a very large shelter, and there was a lot of criticism about that, and our pushback was no. You want people to have good things, and you want them to be in a safe, beautiful environment, and then you want to plant the seeds for folks to want even more. And so it's never about punishing anybody. In fact, more often the folks that we work with, they have beat themselves up far more than anyone deserves to be beat up themselves, and they need the support, and they need to be surrounded by things that visibly kind of show love before they're going to trust the people that are offering the services.
That's exactly right. Can you tell me what it's like to take over or to become president and CEO for an organization with that founder base? I mean, people think about the Doe Fund and George McDonald, but that exists, right?
Totally.
And and it was also a family connection.
Yeah. It's George and Harriet were the founders, and George passed away, and Harriet is retired in Florida. I think that it would have been really kind of strange for somebody who had never worked there before, but I knew I worked directly for George for 12 years. And so coming back in, and I think most CEOs and presidents would say this, whether it's following somebody with a 35-year history or not, it's you can't think about it as oh, there's big shoes to fill. It's okay, I'm coming in here and I have different shoes, bigger, smaller, it doesn't matter. It's just there's not a comparison. A founder is a whole unique set of circumstances and set of values and set of visions and risk-taking. And I truly believe that, coming to the Doe Fund now, and knowing and having the history that I did, I can't imagine, frankly, a better match. And I am so fortunate. I mean, I have the most incredible team of folks, from the folks that run all of our facilities to the folks in the administrative offices. And many of them were people I knew and worked with deeply in the early 2000s, and so have, just deepened our connection and our working relationship. And some of them are just superstars who I've had the privilege of getting to know now. But it is, it's exciting, and as I often say, at least once a day, never a dull moment.
And you and I have chatted in times when it's been particularly exciting, which leads to the question, is there anything when you came on board as president and CEO that surprised you?
Even through the interview process and through my conversations, I felt pretty well equipped and well prepared. And what's the saying? Like the more things change, the more they stay the same. So like we are innovating and we are adding, affordable and supportive housing developments, and we are adding new occupational training tracks. We're doing all that, but the framework of like a room and a job to pay for it, the framework of a hand up, not a handout, the framework of work is transformative, and all of that remains so constant. And so I think if you keep those as your like North Star, it's you keep going and meeting the moment that you're in today, but with those as kind of like the underpinnings and the philosophy. And you continue to listen to the folks who are being served, which, I'm fortunate to work closely with folks who were in those shoes and now are in leadership roles at the Doe Fund every single day. So, no, I love it.
Speaking of the growth and development, you talked about we have occupational trainings we do now, and then there's some growth interest. Tell us about what's now and what's ahead.
Yeah, so our kind of occupational training tracks that we've been doing for quite some time include culinary, include security, though we've formalized the security a little bit more in the past couple of years. We've done some level of kind of building maintenance and construction, though, again, we're working on formalizing it a little bit more. We've always had opportunities for folks to either get their driver's license or for many of the folks who come into us, they have a driver's license, but it has tons of debt and violations and things like that. So helping to figure out how to kind of undo that so it's a usable and valid driver's license has always been important. And then over the past couple of years, what we've been thinking about and doing some pilot work on is in my passion, the green workforce development space. So HVAC training, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, in solar installation paneling. And for HVAC, we're not doing it by ourselves. We're partnering with Solar One for the solar installation panels. We've partnered with the Ready Center. We just launched in the past month or so a new, really, really exciting partnership with New York City's Department of Environmental Protection. We have a crew that is learning in partnership with Gowanus Conservancy, how to maintain rain gardens, and then are tasked with, over the next 3 years, maintaining over 1,000 rain gardens in East New York and somewhere in Queens. And so that is, that's really kind of speaks to what I love is people are doing something that's so important for the environment here, and they're earning money as they learn how to do it and do the actual work.
And this was the announcement that the Mamdani administration made to celebrate Earth Day.
Yes. We're really excited to be part of it.
Was it $4.5 million commitment?
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years. This is the GROW program, is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Love it. See I'm on top of
You're
things.
on top of things, Greg Morris, as usual.
I try. What's a rain garden?
A rain garden is, so people probably don't even notice it, but it's like you see the tree pits that are around trees all over. Those are actually, well, some of them aren't, but these rain gardens are very intentional tree pit looking structures that absorb water. So it reduces runoff. It reduces if you keep them clean, your garbage gets stuck in them instead of going into the sewer system, and then you are cleaning out the garbage. So all those sorts of things.
I have to ask because you have because of your history at the HOPE program, your interest personally and professionally in the green space, and you've talked a little bit about it already here. How is New York City doing in your mind in relation to, let's call it, climate resilience, energy efficiency, sustainability, as you reflect on how it is that you've been engaged and what it is that drew you to the environmental sort of efforts? How do you think we're doing? And by the way, congratulations on
Thank you.
the commitment from the city that's tremendously exciting, and we look forward to documenting that and sharing that story because I think that'll be exciting.
Yeah, I don't know that I feel equipped to answer the question on how we're doing overall, just because I haven't been in kind of the kind of a policy and kind of more outside of green workforce discussions.
Fair.
But for green workforce, I actually think this Rain Garden project is a perfect example of how people are really starting to be thoughtful about how to intersect, environmental needs of the city, economic development needs of the city, workforce needs of the city, and like this project. And at the Hope program, we used to do or they still do, the Cool Roofs project, which was painting rooftops, this really amazing thick white paint to be reflective and to make the buildings more energy efficient. These are like examples of things where it's like a win-win-win. Like it's a win for the environment. It's a win for the people who are getting trained and earning money and doing this work. And then it's a win for the future employers that are going to hire these folks after they go through these training programs and that have a employee who is skilled and understands like the underlying environmental aspects of this and has proven themselves to be hardworking and dedicated and committed. So I love and so I think in green workforce specifically, there's all these kind of high tech jobs that are going to come out. But I think also when there are jobs that are kind of like manual and low tech, it's really important to think about how we roll those out.
And on that note, I'm curious. I was at a gathering earlier today with the lead of the Partnership for New York City, Steve Fulop, and he was talking.
I haven't met him yet.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about.
Okay.
And would love to get him to talk to the board and the coalition.
Great.
And I think we're having a really interesting. He was sharing today his thoughts and ideas about where the city is headed and how things are going. As you can imagine, the topic of AI came up in a number of different ways.
Yes.
The job losses in some cases that different industries have experienced.
Or are going to.
Specific to the individuals that you work with, are you worried? Are you concerned? Are you experiencing challenges with finding employment opportunities?
So, am I worried? Yes. Are we seeing it right this moment? Not yet for our folks. But we are really trying, and I think the whole nonprofit sector is being, or not the whole, but many of us in New York City's nonprofit sector are really trying to balance meeting the needs of the folks we serve in the present moment and keeping our eye on like, okay, what is it going to look like in 3 months or 6 months or 2 years? A lot of us are participating in I think it's through the Fund for the City of New York, where everyone has like an AI fellow. So I have somebody on my team who's participating
Shout out to the Fund
in
for the
that.
City of New York,
And I sat in on their AI training and learned a lot. And so I think we have to balance, like, we have somebody in front of us today who needs a job, and that job still exists. We get them in that job. Will that job exist in 6 months or a year? We got to keep our eye on that and then start to be really innovative in like, how do we keep, I mean, at the Doe Fund and at many other workforce development organizations, like we pride ourselves, we keep in touch with the people that we place in jobs and we continue to give them support. And so what is that support going to look like as their jobs change? Is it going to, we're going to always have kind of a stack of jobs that we're reserving for graduates who come back because they've changed their jobs and we figure it. So it's something we're thinking about and need to be planful, but like right this moment from a job placement perspective, I haven't seen huge impact from AI for our work.
It's a question that's going to be on our minds as we go forward and something we're going to have to talk about, I think, over and over, because to your point, we need to find opportunities now. Those opportunities are going to evolve. Some things may shrink. Some things may get bigger.
Right. And how do you like encourage somebody to take that opportunity now and then in the evenings or weekends or afternoons do additional training so that they're prepared for when when AI intervenes in some way.
You know, I appreciate how much it is that you think about. You're a strategic thinker, and just our time together. I think she just made a face as I said that. I don't.
We
I
always
think
have
anybody
this
knows.
conversation.
I think you're a very strategic thinker. And I also appreciate how you and your staff have been actively focused on the Just Pay campaigns and the rallies in New York City to support human services contracting and wage equity, which is hugely important. I don't know if you want to share the number that your organization might be owed by the city in terms of back contracts, but I remember it being very large.
It changes on a pretty regular basis, so I'm not going to say any number here. I will say in the past just couple weeks, we've had some really, really positive conversations with folks at different levels of the city, and I'm an insanely optimistic person, so I am optimistic. And as we, as anybody in my seat in the month of June knows, cash flow is a huge concern in June, probably more than any other month of the year for a lot of us. John McIntosh at Sea Change did an amazing, just one-pager, describing our pain the other day. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even talk to John, but he captured this perfectly.
He got it. Yeah.
And, July 1st comes and we're, you can't ever let your kind of foot off the gas on this stuff. But
it's interesting. We'll be recording this. We're recording on May 27th. This will likely drop right before we've hit the end of the fiscal year.
All right. Well, then I'll be breathing a little bit easier as we get towards
I hope
then.
so. Yes. I hope so. But to those of you who are listening who understand the complexity and challenge and overwhelming nature of procurement, contracting, delays, we hope you are in a good space right now.
Yes. Thank you.
But we
I
also
hope
know
everybody is.
There's a lot of work to be done to ensure that these are the issues we don't have to deal with going forward. As we begin to wind down here, I want to kind of dig in on the housing conversation for a second.
Sure.
When you talk about transitional housing, what do you mean?
So transitional housing is shelter beds. So we operate 660, and by the end of the summer, it will be 860 shelter beds across 4 facilities in partnership with Department of Homeless Services in New York City. 3 are in Brooklyn, and 1 is in Upper Manhattan.
And what's the pathway? So the transitional – actually, let's back up for a second.
Sure.
You get a referral, right? It's the city says, we have someone who is ready, prepared, connected. We want to bridge them to you. Is that referral based on that person's interest, or is it a matter of, well, the system itself is sort of getting someone ready for a next step?
Oh, this could be an episode in and of itself, Greg.
This is a whole separate...
It's like very complex. So it's a combination of where are there vacant beds in the system, who needs a vacant bed, and is there somebody who is a match for and very interested in the Ready, Willing, and Able program, and timing is everything. So yeah, it's complicated, but really proud of the work that we do in all of our transitional housing facilities with folks who choose to enroll in the Ready, Willing, and Able program, and also folks who don't for a variety of reasons, including they could come in working already, and then our job is to help them find housing.
Is there a pivot from the desire to go from transitional to supportive to
totally
affordable
separate.
to which is a different track, but I'm curious about that. And by the way, we will have a separate pod, and we'll bring you on, and we'll bring Pascal Leone
I was just gonna say.
and Kristen Miller on. But I just love to know from your perspective, as you work with clients who you are working very hard to get roof over the head, exposure to a job experience, paid doing that. What's your aspiration for these folks?
I mean, it's interesting. So one, and it'll be a few weeks when this drops, but yesterday the new administration dropped their block-by-block housing plan. You should have Pascal Leone on to talk all about it.
That's right.
I will say it's 111 pages, so I did not read all of it yet, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. And then I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who thinks about this stuff all the time in the administration. They are being very thoughtful about how to, I don't want to say recreate the system, but like break down the bureaucratic barriers in the system so that there's many of us who have people in our shelters that are looking for housing, and then we have housing, which has units who those folks in our particular shelter might not be eligible for. And how do you do a more efficient job of making those matches so that people get out of shelter and units don't sit there open? Right. And that is, again, a whole other episode could be done on that. And Pascal and Kristen Miller and other folks would be, who are more systems thinkers, could probably like articulate what possible solutions there are. I just see it with like the folks we work with, and I'm like, everyone needs a home. How do we get this person into a home? And, you know, everyone who wants to and is able to needs a job. And how do we get those folks into a job? And then we celebrate that really big. We have an annual graduation ceremony every single year. This year it's on July 29th. And we celebrate all the folks who came through our doors, you know, unhoused and unemployed, and left with a job and hopefully the start to a career and a home where they are, you know, got the first keys to. So that's what it's all about for me.
I am so grateful to know you, the practitioner you are, the colleague you are, the friend you are. Before we started this podcast, you and I were talking a little bit about how it was possible for me to get the job I got, based a lot on your support and encouragement and your amazing set of skills in making connections and helping to make things happen. I think anybody who knows you knows that's what you do.
You are very kind, and I appreciate you, and NYC ETC and the larger community are so lucky to have you in this role and doing what you do. To
close this out, because I know for certain one of our listeners, the mayor definitely listens to our podcast. There's no question. There's no question. And his team listens as well. They're all listening. Do you have specific advice to the administration based on your vast experience, insight, and your focus on service and the success of individuals? What particular message would you want to get in that ear right now? And by the way, I've seen you work elected officials at Somos and other places talking about how it is that things need to get done. What would you want to say?
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know that I have a specific message. I mean, it's about, you know, we started off the podcast kind of talking about like being proximate. So like, come out, come see the work being done, come see the people that are being served, talk to those folks. Like, I would never purport to have all the solutions or all the answers, but I certainly can say we have the right people to connect you with in our housing and in our shelters. And so, you know, I'm enthusiastic, cautiously optimistic, cautiously enthusiastic. But I do think that when you look at the people that are taking the positions that influence workforce development and homelessness and housing and all that in this administration, they're incredibly smart. They're incredibly committed. They've been around for a while, many of them. And I just think now it's about like keeping kind of the lines of communication open and doing as much listening as possible to those who are really impacted.
Well, you're the right person to have at that table because of the way you listen and the way you think. Jen Mitchell, it is an absolute pleasure to know you. Thank you for joining the NYC Workforce Drop.
Thank you.